Chapter 25. Jason rose from his deathbed so he could drown with the rest of the crew. The ship was tilting so violently he had to climb the floor to get out of sickbay. The hull creaked. The engine groaned like a dying water buffalo. Cutting through the roar of the wind, the goddess Nike screamed from the stables, "You can do better, Storm! Give me 110%! Jason climbed the stairs to the middle deck. His legs shook, his head spun. The ship pitched to port, knocking him against the opposite wall. Hazel stumbled out of her cabin, hugging her stomach. "I hate the ocean." When she saw him, her eyes widened. "What are you doing out of bed?" "I'm going up there," he insisted. "I can help." Hazel looked like she wanted to argue. Then the ship tilted to starboard, and she staggered towards the bathroom, her hand over her mouth. Jason fought his way to the stairs. He hadn't been out of bed in a day and a half. Ever since the girls got back from Sparta and he'd unexpectedly collapsed. His muscles rebelled at the effort. He felt like Mitchell Varus was standing behind him, repeatedly stabbing him and yelling, "Die like a Roman! Die like a Roman!" Jason forced down the pain. He was tired of people taking care of him. How worried they were. Whispering how worried they were. He was tired of dreaming about being a shish kebab. He'd spent enough time nursing the wound in his gut. Either it would kill him or it wouldn't. He wasn't going to wait around for the wound to decide. He had to help his friends. Somehow he made it above deck. When he saw there made him almost as nauseous as Hazel. A wave the size of a skyscraper crashed over the forward deck, washing the front crossbows and half the port railing out to sea. The sails were ripped to shreds. Lightning flashed all around, hitting the sea like spotlights. Horizontal rain blasted Jason's face. The clouds were so dark he honestly couldn't tell if it was a day or night. The crew was doing what they could, which wasn't much. Leo had lashed himself to the console with a bungee cord harness. That might have seemed like a good idea when he rigged it up, but every time a wave hit, he was washed away, then smacked back into his controller board like a human paddle board. Piper and Annabeth were trying to save the rigging. Since Sparta, they'd become quite a team, able to work together without even talking, which was just as well since they couldn't have heard each other over the storm. Frank, at least Jason assumed it was Frank. Frank had turned into a gorilla. He was swinging upside down on the starboard rail, using his massive strength and flexible feet to hang on while he untangled some broken oars. Apparently the crew was trying to get to the ship airborne, but even if they managed to take off, Jason wasn't sure the sky would be any safer. Even Festus, the figurehead, was trying to help. He spewed fire at the rain, though that didn't seem to discourage the storm. Only Percy was having any luck. He stood by the center mast, his hands extended like he was on tightrope. Every time the ship tilted, he summoned giant fists of water from the ocean to slam it into the larger waves before they could reach the deck. So it looked like the ocean was hitting itself repeatedly in the face. With the storm as bad as it was, Jason realized the ship would have already capsized or been smashed to bits if Percy wasn't on the job. Jason staggered towards the mast. Leo yelled something. "Probably. Go downstairs." But Jason only waved back. He made it to Percy's side and grabbed his shoulder. Percy nodded like, "Sup?" He didn't look shocked or demand that Jason go back to sick bay, which Jason appreciated. Percy could stay dry if he concentrated, but obviously he had bigger things to worry about right now. His dark hair rippled. His dark hair was plastered to his face. His clothes were soaked and ripped. He shouted something in Jason's ear, but Jason could only make out a few words. Thing! Down! Stop it! Percy pointed over the side. Something is causing the storm. Percy grinned and tapped his ears. Clearly he couldn't hear a word. He made a gesture with his hand like diving overboard. He tapped Jason on the chest. You want me to go? Jason felt kind of honoured. Everybody else had been treating him like a glass vase. But Percy, well, he seemed to figure that if Jason was on deck, he would be ready for action. Happy to, Jason shouted, but I can't breathe underwater. Percy shrugged. Sorry, can't hear you. And Percy ran to starboard. Well, pushed another massive wave away from the ship, and jumped overboard. Jason glanced at Piper and Annabeth. They both clung to the rigging, staring at him in shock. Piper's expression said, "Are you out of your mind?" He gave her an okay sign, partly to assure her that he would be fine, which he wasn't sure about, partly to agree that he was in fact crazy, which he was sure about. He staggered to the railing and looked up at the storm. Winds raged. Clouds churned. Jason sensed an entire army of Venti swirling above him, too angry and agitated to take physical form, but hungry for destruction. He raised his arm and summoned a lasso of wind. Jason had learned long ago that the best way to control a crowd of bullies was to pick the meanest, biggest kid and force him into submission. The others would fall in line. He lashed out with his wind rope, searching for the strongest, most ordinary Ventus in the storm. He lassoed a nasty patch of storm cloud and pulled it in. You're serving me today. Howling in protest, the Ventus encircled him. The storm above the ship seemed to lessen just a bit, as if the other Venti were thinking, "Oh, crud, that guy means business." Jason levitated off the deck, encased in his own miniature tornado, spinning like a corkscrew. He plunged into the water. Jason assumed things would be calm underwater. Not so much. Of course, that would have been due to his mode of travel. Riding a cyclone to the bottom of the ocean definitely gave him some unexpected turbulence. He dropped and swerved with no apparent logic, his ears popping, his stomach pressing against his ribs. Finally, he drifted to a stop next to Percy, who stood on a ledge jutting over a deep abyss. "Hey!" Percy said. Jason could hear him perfectly, though he wasn't sure how. "What's going on?" In his Ventus air cocoon, his own voice sounded like he was talking to a vacuum cleaner. Percy pointed into the void. "Wait for it!" 3 seconds later, a shaft of green light swept through the darkness like a spotlight, then disappeared. Something's down there," Percy said, "stirring up this storm." He turned and seized up Jason's tornado. "Nice outfit. Can you hold it together if we go deeper?" "I have no idea how I'm doing this," Jason said. "Okay," Percy said. "Well, just don't get knocked unconscious." Shut up, Jackson," Percy grinned. "Let's see what's down there." They sank so deep that Jason couldn't see anything except Percy swimming next to him in the dim light of their gold and bronze blades. Every so often, the green searchlight shot upward. Percy swam straight towards it. Jason's Ventus crackled and roared. "Strike straining to escape. The smell of ozone made him lightheaded, but he kept his shell of air intact. At last, the darkness lessened below them, soft, white, luminous patches. The school of jellyfish floated before Jason's eyes as he approached the seafloor. He realized the patches were glowing fields of algae surrounding the ruins of a palace. Silt swirled through the empty courtyards with abalone floors. Barnacle-covered Greek columns marched into the gloom. In the center of the complex rose a citadel larger than Grand Central Station. Its walls encrusted with pearls, its domed golden roof cracked open like an egg. Atlantis? Jason said. That's a myth, Percy said. Don't we deal in myths? No, it's a made-up myth, not like an actual true myth. So this is why Annabeth is the brains of the operation, then. Shut up, Grace! They floated through the broken dome and down into the shadows. This place seems familiar. Percy's voice became eddy. Almost like I've been here. The green light spotlight flashed directly below them, blinding Jason. He dropped like a stone, touching down on the smooth marble floor. When his vision cleared, he saw that they weren't alone. Standing before them was a 20-foot-tall woman in a flowing green dress, cinched at the waist with a belt of abalone shells. Her skin was as luminous white as the fields of algae. Her hair swayed and glowed like jellyfish tendrils. Her face was beautiful but unearthly. Her eyes too bright, her features too delicate, her smile too cold, as if she'd been studying human smiles and hadn't quite mastered the art. Her hands rested on a disco of polished green metal about 6 feet in diameter. Sitting on a bronze tripod, it reminded Jason of a steel drum he'd once seen a street performer play at the Embarcadero in San Francisco. The woman turned the metal disc like a steering wheel. The walls of the old palace, shards from the doomed ceiling, broke and tumbled down in slow motion. You're making the storm. Chapter 26. Jason. Jason saw two options. Fight or talk. Unusually, when he faced a creepy 20-foot-tall lady with jellyfish hair, he would have gone with fight. But since she called Percy brother, that made him hesitate. Percy, do you know this individual? Percy shook his head. Doesn't look like my mum. So I'm gonna guess we're related on the godly side. You a daughter of Poseidon, miss? The pale lady raked her fingernails against the metal disc, making a screeching sound like torture wail. No one knows me, she sighed. Would I assume my own brother would recognize me? I am Chymopolia. Percy and Jason exchanged looks. So, Percy said, we're going to call you Chyme, and you'd be a, Nereid then? Minor goddess? Minor? By which? Jason said quickly. He means under the drinking age. Because obviously you're so young and beautiful. Percy flashed him a look. Nice save. The goddess turned her full attention to Jason. He pointed her index finger and traced his outline in the water. Jason could feel his captured airspread rippling around him as if it were being tickled. Jason Grace, said the goddess, son of Jupiter.
Yeah, I'm a friend of Percy's. Chimes narrowed. So it's true, these times make for strange friends and unexpected enemies. The Romans never worshipped me. To them, I was a nameless fear, a sign of Neptune's greatest wrath. They never worshipped Cimopolia, the goddess of violent sea storms. He spun her disk. Another beam of green light flashed upward, churning the water and making the Romans rumble. Yeah, Percy said. The Romans aren't big on navies. They had like one rowboat, which I sank. Speaking of violent storms, you're doing a first-rate job upstairs. Thank you, said Chime. Thing is, our ship is caught in it and it's kind of being ripped apart. I'm sure you didn't mean to. Oh, yes, I did. You did? Percy grimaced. Well, that sucks. I don't suppose you'd cut it out then if we asked nicely. No, the goddess agreed. Even now the ship is close to sinking. I'm rather amazed it's held together this long. Excellent workmanship. Sparks flew from Jason's arm into the tornado. He thought about Piper and the rest of the crew, frantically trying to keep the ship in one piece. By coming down here, he and Percy had left the others defenseless. They had to act soon. Besides, Jason's air was getting stale. He wasn't sure if it was supposed to use up a Ventus by inhaling it. But if he was going to have to fight, he'd better take on Chime before he ran out of oxygen. The thing was, fighting a goddess on her home court wouldn't be easy. If they managed to take her down, there was no guaranteeing the storm would stop. So, Chime, he said, what could we do to make you change your mind and let our ship go? Chime gave him that creepy alien smiles. Do you know where you are? Jason was tempted to answer underwater. You mean these ruins, an ancient palace? Indeed, Chime said. The original palace of my father, Poseidon. Percy snapped his fingers, which sounded like a muffled explosion. That's where I recognized it. Dad's new crib in the Atlantic is kind of like this. I wouldn't know, Chime said. I've never invited to see my parents. I can only wander the ruins of their old domains. They find my presence disruptive. She spun her wheel again. The entire back of the building collapsed, sending a cloud of silt and algae through the chamber. Fortunately, the Ventus had acted like a fan, blowing the debris out of Jason's face. Disruptive, Jason said. You! My father does not welcome me in his court, Chime said. He restricts my powers. This storm above. I haven't had this much fun in ages. Yet it is only so small a taste. It is only a small taste of what I can do. A little goes a long way, Percy said. Anyway, to Jason's question about changing your mind. My father even married me off, Chime said. Without my permission, he gave me away like a trophy to Briareus, a 100-handed one, as a reward for supporting the gods in the war with Cronus aeons ago. Percy's face brightened. Hey, I know Briareus. He's a friend of mine. I freed him from Alcatraz. Yes, I know. Chime's eyes glinted coldly. I hate my husband. I was not at all pleased to have him back. Oh, so Briareus around? So is Briareus around? Percy asked hopefully. Chime's laugh sounded like dolphin chatter. He's off at Mount Olympus in New York, shoring up the gods' defences.
Not that it will matter. My point, dear brother, is that Poseidon has never treated me fairly. I like to come here to his old palace because it pleases me to see his work in ruins. Some day soon his new palace will look like this one, and the seas will rage unchecked. Percy looked at Jason. This is the part where she tells us he's working for Gale. Yeah, Jason said, and the Earth Mother promised her a better deal once the gods are destroyed. Blah, blah, blah. He turned to Kime. You understand that Gale won't keep her promises, right? She's using you just like she's using the giants. I am touched by your concern, said the goddess. The Olympian gods, on the other hand, had never used me, eh? Percy spread his hands. At least the Olympians are trying at last. After the last Titan war, they started paying more attention to the other gods. A lot of them have cabins now at Camp Half-Blood. Hecate, Hades, Hebe, Hypnos, and probably some that don't belong with H2. We give them offerings at every meal. Cool banner, special recognition in the end of summer program. And do I get such offerings? Kime asked. Well, no, we didn't know you existed. But then save your words, brother. Kime's jellyfish tentacle hair floated towards him, as if anxious to paralyze new prey. I've heard so much about the great Percy accent. The giants are quite obsessed with capturing you, but I must say, I don't see what the fuss is about. Thanks, sis, but if you're going to try to kill me, I've got to warn you, it's been tried before. I fayed a lot of goddesses recently, Nike, Achilles, even Nike herself. Compared to them, you're not scaring me. Also, you laugh like a dolphin. Kime's delicate nostrils flared. Jason got his sword ready. I won't kill you, Kime said. My part of the bargain was simply to get your attention. Someone else is here, though, who very much wants to kill you. Above them, at the edge of the broken roof, a dark shape appeared. A figure even taller than Chimeropolia. The son of Neptune! Boomed a deep voice. The giant floated down. Clouds of dark, vicious fluid, poison perhaps, curled from his blue skin. His green breastplate was fashioned to resemble a cluster of open, hungry mouths. In his hands were the weapons of a retiarius, a trident and a weighted net. Jason had never met this particular giant, but he'd heard stories. Polyboats? He said, the anti-Poseidon? The giant shook his dreadlocks. A dozen serpents swam free, each one lime green with a frilled crown around its head. Basilisks! Indeed, son of Roman. The giant said, but if you'll excuse me, my immediate business is with Perseus Jackson. I tracked him all the way across the towers. Now he's here in his father's ruins. I mean to crush him once and for all. Chapter 27. Jason hated basilisks. The little scum suckers loved to burrow under the temples in New Rome. But when Jason was a centurion, his cohort always got the unpopular chore of cleaning out their nests. A basilisk didn't look like much, just an arm-length serpent with yellow eyes and a white frill collar, but it moved fast and could kill anything it touched. Jason had never faced more than two at a time. Now a dozen were swimming around the giant's legs. The only good thing, underwater basilisks won't be able to breathe fire. That didn't make them any less deadly. Two of the serpents shot towards Percy. He sliced them in half. The other 10 swirled around him just out of the blades' reach. They wreathed back and forwards in hypnotic pattern, looking for an opening. One bite and touch was all it would take. Hey, Jason said. What about some love over here? The snakes ignored him. So did the giant, who stood back and watched with a smile, apparently happy for his pets to do the killing. Polia! Jason tried his best to pronounce her name right. You have to stop this. She regarded him with her glowing white eyes. Why would I do that? The Earth Mother has promised me unrestricted power. Could you make me a better offer? Better offer? He sensed the possibility of an opening, room to negotiate, but what did he have that a storm goddess would want? The basilisks closed in on Percy. He blasted them away with currents of waters, but they just kept circling. Hey, basilisks! Jason yelled. Still no reaction. He could charge in and help, but even together, he and Percy couldn't possibly fight off 10 basilisks as one. He needed a better solution. He glanced up. A thunderstorm raged above, but they were hundreds of feet down. He couldn't possibly summon lightning at the bottom of the sea, could he? Even if he could water conduct electricity a little too well, he might fry Percy. But he couldn't think of a better option. He thrust up his sword. Immediately the blade glowed red hot. A diffuse cloud of yellow light billowed through the depths, like someone had poured liquid neon into the water. The light hit Jason's sword and sprayed outwards in 10 separate tendrils, zapping the basilisks. Their eyes went dark. Their frills disintegrated. All 10 serpents turned belly up and floated dead in the water. Next time, Jason said, look at me when I'm talking to you. Polyboat's smile curdled. Are you so anxious to die, Roman? Percy raised his sword. He hurled himself at the giant, but Polyboat swept his hand through the water, leaving an arc of black, oily poison. Percy charged straight into it, faster than Jason could yell. Dude, what are you thinking? Percy dropped Riptide. He gasped and clawing at his throat. The giant threw his weighted net at Percy, and Percy collapsed to the floor, hopelessly entangled as the poison thickened around him. Let him go! For Jason's voice crackled with panic. The giant chuckled. Don't worry, son of Jupiter. Your friend will take a long time to die. After all the trouble he's caused me, I wouldn't dream of killing him quickly. Noxious clouds expanded around the giant, filling the room like thick cigar smoke. Jason scrambled backwards, not fast enough, but his ventus proved a useful filter. As the poison engulfed him, the miniature tornado spun faster, repelling the clouds. Hippolyta wrinkled her nose and waved away the darkness. But otherwise it didn't seem to affect her. Percy writhed into the net. Percy raced in the net, his face turning green. Jason charged to help him, but the giant blocked him with his huge trident. Oh, I can't let you ruin my fun, Polyboat chided. The poison will kill him eventually. But first comes the paralyzing and hours of excruciating pain. I want him to have the full experience. He can watch as I destroy you, Jason Grace. Polyboats advanced slowly, giving Jason plenty of time to contemplate 3-story tall tower of armor and muscle down bearing on him. He dodged the trident and, using his Ventus to shoot for sword, jabbed his sword into the giant's reptilian leg. Polybotes roared and stumbled. Golden ichor plumbing from the wound. "Climb!" Jason yelled. "Is this really what you want?" The storm goddess looked rather bored, idly spinning her metal disc. "Unlimited power? Why not?" "But is it any fun?" Jason asked. "So you destroy our ship. You destroy the entire coastline of the world. Once Gaia wipes out human civilization. Who's left to fear you? You'll still be unknown." Polybotes turned. "You are a pest, son of Jupiter. It's Jupiter. You will be crushed." Jason tried to summon more lightning. Nothing happened. If he ever met his dad, he'd have to petition for an increased daily allowance of bolts. Jason managed to avoid the prongs of the trident again, but the giant swung the other end around and smacked him in the chest. Jason reeled back, stunned and in pain. Polybotes came in for the kill. Just as the trident would have perforated him, Jason's Ventus attacked on its own. It spiraled sideways, whisking Jason 30 feet across the courtyard. "Thanks, buddy," Jason thought. "I used some air freshener." If the Ventus liked that idea, Jason couldn't tell. "Actually, Jason," Grace said, studying her fingernails. "Now that you mention it, I do enjoy being feared by mortals. I'm not feared enough." "I can help with that." Jason dodged another swipe of the trident. He extended his gladius into a javelin and poked Polybotes in the eye. Ah! The giant staggered. Percy reached in the neck, but his movements were getting sluggish. Jason needed to hurry. He had to get Percy to sickbay, and if the storm kept raging above them, there wouldn't be any sickbay to get him to. He flew to Chime's side. "You know, gods depend on mortals. The more we honor you, the more powerful you get." "I wouldn't know. I've never been honored." She ignored Polybotes, who was now stampeding around her, trying to swat Jason out of his whirlwind. Jason did his best to keep the goddess between them. "I can change that," he promised. "I'll personally arrange a shrine for you on Temple Hill in New Rome. Your first ever Roman shrine. I'll raise one at Camp Half-Blood as well, right on the shore of Long Island Sound. Imagine being honoured and feared by both Greeks and Romans. You'll be famous." Stop talking!" Polybotes swung his trident like a baseball bat. Jason ducked. Chime did not. The giant slammed her in the ribcage so hard that strands of her jellyfish hair came loose and drifted through the poisoned water. Polybote's eyes widened. "I'm sorry, Chymopolia. You shouldn't have been in the way." "In the way?" The goddess straightened. "I am in the way?" "You heard him," Jason said. "You're nothing but a tool for giants. They'll cast you aside as soon as they're through destroying mortals. They know demigods no shrines should fear. No respect." "Lies!" Polybotes tried to stab him, but Jason hid behind the goddess's dress. "Chymopolia, when Gaia rules, you will rage and storm without restraint. Will there be any mortals to terrorize Chymos?" "Well, no. Ships to destroy, demigods to cover in all. Help me," Jason urged. "Together, a goddess and a demigod can kill a giant." No. Polybote suddenly looked very nervous. "No, that's a terrible idea. Gaia will be most displeased." "If Gaia wakes," Jason said, "the mighty Chymopedia can help us make sure that never happens.
Then all demigods will honour you big time. Will they cower? Kime asked. Tons of cowering, plus your name in the summer programme. A custom designed banner, a cabinet clown half-blood, 2 shrines. I'll even throw in a Kymopolia action figure. No, Polyboats wailed. Not merchandising rights. Kymopolia turned on the giant. I'm afraid that deal beats what Gaia has offered. Unacceptable! You cannot trust this vile Roman. If I don't honour the bargain, Jason said, Kime can always kill me. With Gaia, she has no guarantee at all. That, Kime said, is difficult to argue with. As Polyboat struggled to answer, Jason charged forward, stabbing his javelins in the giant's gut. Kime lifted her bronze disc from its pedestal. Say goodbye, Polyboats. She spun the disc at the giant's neck. Turned out the rim was sharp. Polyboats found it difficult to say goodbye since he no longer had a head. Chapter 28. Jason. Poison is a nasty habit. Kymopolia waved her hand, and the murky clouds dissipated. Second-hand poison can kill a person, you know. Jason was too fond of first-handed poison either, but he decided not to mention that. He cut Percy out of the net and propped him against the temple wall, enveloping him in the airy shell of the Ventus. The oxygen was getting thin, but Jason hoped it might expel the poison from his friend's lungs. It seemed to work. Percy doubled over and began to reach. Oh, thanks. Jason exhaled with relief. You had me worried there, bro. Percy blinked cross-eyed. Am I still a little fuzzy? But did you promise Kime an action figure? The goddess loomed over them. Indeed he did, and I expect him to deliver. I will, Jason said. When we win this war, I'm going to make sure all the gods will get recognized. He put his hand on Percy's shoulder. My friend here started that process last summer. He made the Olympians promise to pay you guys more attention. Kime sniffed. We know what an Olympian promise is worth, which is why I'm going to finish the job. Jason didn't know where these words were coming from, but the idea felt absolutely right. I'll make sure none of the gods are forgotten at either camp. Maybe they'll get temples or cabins or at least shrines. Or collectible trading cards, Kime suggested. Sure, Jason smiled. I'll go back and forth between the camps until the job is done. Percy whistled. You're talking about dozens of gods. Hundreds, Kime corrected. Well then, Jason said, it might take a while, but you'll be first on the list, Kymopolia. The storm goddess who beheaded a giant and saved our quest. Kime shrugged her jellyfish hair. That will do nicely. She regarded Percy, though I'm still sorry I won't see you die. I get that comment a lot, Percy said. Now, about our ship, still in one piece, said the goddess. Not in very good shape, but you should be able to make it to Delos. Thank you, Jason said. Yeah, Percy said. And reading your husband, Briareus, is a good dude. You should give him a chance. The goddess picked up her bronze disc. Don't push your luck, brother. Briareus has 50 faces. All of them are ugly. He's got hundreds of hands. He's still all thumbs around the house. Okay, Percy relented, not pushing my luck. Kime turned over the disc, revealing straps at the bottom side like a shield. She slipped it over her shoulders. Captain America style. Are we watching your progress, Polyboats? I was watching your progress. Polyboats was not boasting when he warned that your blood would awaken the Earth Mother. The giants are very confident of this. My blood, personally? Percy asked. Climb's smile was even creepier than usual. I am not an oracle, but I've heard what the seer Phineas told you in the city of Portland. You will face a sacrifice that you may not be able to make, and it will cost you the world. And yet you have to face your fatal flaw, my brother. Look around. All the work of gods and men eventually turn to ruins. Would it not be easier to flee into the depths with that girlfriend of yours? Percy put his hand over Jason's shoulder and struggled to his feet. Juno offered me a choice like that one back when I found Count Jupiter. I'll give you the same answer. I don't run when my friends need me. Climb turned up her palms. And there is your flaw, being unable to step away. I will retreat to the depths and watch this battle unfold. You should know that the forces of the ocean are also at war. Your friend Hazel Leviscue made quite an impression on the mer people and on their mentors, Aphros and Brythos. The fish pony dudes, Percy muttered. They didn't want to meet me. Even now they are wagging war for your sake, Perkheim said, trying to get Gay's allies away from Long Island, whether or not they will survive. That remains to be seen. As for you, Jason Graced, your path will be no easier than your friends. You will be tricked. You will face unbearable sorrow. Jason tried to keep from sparking. He wasn't sure Percy's heart could take the shock. Climb, you said you're not an oracle. They should give you the job. You're definitely depressing enough. The goddess let loose her dolphin laugh. Let loose her dolphin laugh. You amuse me, son of Jupiter. I hope you'll live to defeat Gaia. Thanks, he said. Any pointers on defeating a goddess who can't be defeated? Chimopedia tilted her head. Oh, but you know the answer. You're a child of the sky with storms in your blood. A primordial god has been defeated once before. You know of whom I speak. Jason's insides started swirling faster than the Ventus. Orus, the first god of the sky. That means yes. Climb's alien features took on an impression that almost resembled sympathy. Let us hope it does not come to that. If Kay does wake, well, your task will not be easy. But if you win, remember your promise, Pontifex. Jason took a moment to process her words. I am not a priest. No. Climb's white eyes gleamed. No, Climb's white eyes gleamed. By the way, your Ventus servant says he wishes to be freed, since he has helped you. He hopes you will let him go when you reach the surface. He promises he will not bother you a third time. A third time? Climb paused as if listening. He says he's joined the storm above to take revenge on you, but he had to know how strong you become since the Grand Canyon. He never would have approached your ship. Had he known how strong you have become since the Grand Canyon, he never would have approached your ship. The Grand Canyon, Jason recalled. That day on the skywalk when one of his jerk classmates turned out to be a windspit. Dylan, are you kidding me? I'm breathing Dylan. Yes, Kylan said. That seems to be his name. Jason shuddered. I'll let him go as soon as I reach the surface. No worries. Farewell, then, the goddess said, and may the fates smile upon you, assuming that fates survive. They needed to leave. Jason was running out of air. Dylan there. Gross. And everyone on the Argo too would be worried about them, but Percy was still woozy from the poison. So they sat on the edge of a ruined golden dome for a few minutes till let Percy catch his breath, or catch his water. Whatever son of Poseidon catches when he's at the bottom of the ocean. Thanks, man, Percy said. You saved my life. Hey, that's what we do for friends. But the Jupiter guy saving the Poseidon guy at the bottom of the ocean?
Maybe we can keep the details to ourselves. Otherwise, I'll never hear the end of it. Jason grinned. You've got it. How are you feeling? Better. I have to admit, when I was choking on that poison, I kept thinking about Achilles, the misery goddess in Tartarus. I almost destroyed her with poison. He shivered. It felt good, but in a bad way. If Annabeth hadn't stopped me, but she did, Jason said. Another thing friends have to do for each other. Yeah, the thing is, as I was choking just now, I kept thinking this is payback for Achilles. The fates are letting me die the same way I tried to kill that goddess. And honestly, part of me felt I deserved it. That's why I didn't try to conjure the giant's poison and move it away from me. That probably sounds crazy. Jason thought back to Ithaca when he was despairing over the visit from his mom's spirit. No, I think I get it. Jason studied his face. When Jason didn't say any more, Percy changed the subject. What did Kian mean about you defeating Gaia? You mentioned Uranus? Jason stared at the silt swirling between the columns of the old palace. The sky god. The Titans defeated him by calling him down to the earth. They got him away from his home territory and ambushed him, held him down and cut him up. First he looked like his nausea was coming back. How would we do that with Gaia? Jason recalled a line from the prophecy. To storm or fire, the world must fall. He had an idea what that meant now. But if he was right, Percy wouldn't be able to help. In fact, he might unintentionally make things harder. I don't run when my friends need me, Percy had said. And there is your flaw, Kine had warned. Being unable to step away. Today was the 27th of July. In 5 days, Jason would know if he was right. Let's go to Delos first, he said. Apollo and Artemis might have some advice. Percy nodded, though he didn't seem satisfied with that answer. Why did Chiropolia call you Pontifex? Jason's laugh literally cleared the air. Pontifex, it means priest. Oh, Percy frowned. Still sounds like a car, like a kind of car. The new Pontifex XLS. Will you have to wear a collar and bless people? Now, Romans used to have Pontifex Maximus, who oversaw all the proper sacrifices and were not to make sure none of the gods got mad, which I often do. I guess it does sound like a Pontifex's job. So you mean it? Percy asked. You're really going to try building shrines for all the minor gods? Yeah, I never really thought about it before, but I like the idea of going back and forth between the two camps. Assuming we made it through the next week and the two camps still exist. What you did last year on Olympus, turning down immortally and asking the gods to play nice instead? That was noble, man. Percy grunted. Believe me, some days I regret that choice. Oh, you want to turn down our offer? Okay, fine. Zap. You lose your memory. Go to Tartarus. You did what a hero should do. I admire you for that. The least I can do, if we survive, is continue that work. Make sure the gods get some recognition, If the gods get along better, maybe we can stop more of these wars from breaking out. That would most definitely be good, Percy agreed. You look different. Better different. Does your wound still hurt? My wound? Jason had been so busy with the giant and the goddess, he'd forgotten about the sword wound in his gut, even though he'd been dying from it in sickbay only an hour ago. He lifted his shirt and pulled away the bandages. No smoke, no bleeding, no scar, no pay. pain. It's gone, he said. Stunned. I feel completely normal, he said. What the heck? You beat it, man. Percy laughed. You found your own cure. Jason considered that. He guessed it must be true. Maybe putting aside his pain to help his friends had done the trick. Or maybe his decision to honour the gods at both camps had healed him, giving him a clear path to the future, Roman or Greek. The difference didn't matter, like he told ghosts at Ithaca. His family had just got bigger. Now he saw his plan in it. He would keep his promise to the storm goddess, and because of that, Mitchell Varys' sword meant nothing. Die, Roman. No, if he had to die, he would die as son of Jupiter, a child of the gods, the blood of Olympus. But he wasn't about to let himself get sacrificed, at least not without a fight. Come on, Jason clapped his friend on the back. Let's go check on our ship.
Right, everybody, that's everything I will be reading you for today. So, bye-bye, everybody, and thanks for listening to this video. So, bye-bye.